What's up guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to talk about the government's thrift savings plan. This is the Government TSP, or the government's 401k. This is the retirement plan for all government employees, including active duty military. For those who don't know, I am currently serving active duty military and I have been contributing to my Government TSP for the last 3 years. As of this month, the Government TSP's website has been redesigned. So in this video, we're going to do a walkthrough and tutorial of the new website. In addition, I will log on to my account and I will show you my TSP balance and exactly what you need to do in order to do interfund transfers and changing your contribution allocations. In this video, I just don't have time to explain to you everything that I want to explain to you about the government's TSP. On my YouTube channel, I've already made, I think probably about 15 videos about the Government TSP, and definitely go check that out. And if you're someone brand new to the entire concept of retirement investing, 401ks, then I made a video called How to Retire a Millionaire by Age 60. I think that is a good place to start for a very broad overview and broad perspective of why do you even need to have a 401k or TSP if you're a government employee. First thing I want to say about this website is it definitely looks cleaner now. The old one was kind of boxy and kind of had a like a 2000s vibe to it. So it definitely looks cleaner. And there's only 5 tabs at the top. So we'll just quickly go through these. I don't have time to go in detail about everything, but manage your plan. We have all the information you need about account basics, how to access your account, how to troubleshoot login errors, how to update your address, questions maybe about administrative costs. Let's see, making contributions, how to start, change, or stop contributions, traditional and Roth contributions. I'll go ahead and talk about this because this is so important and it's a very common question. Which should you be doing, Roth or traditional TSP? The difference is if you contribute to the traditional TSP, you are going to save money this year on your federal and state income tax. But the catch is when you go to retire at age 60 and you start pulling money out, you're going to have to pay income tax at that time. With Roth, you're not getting any tax savings on your income this year if you make contributions. However, when you go to retire, you will be able to withdraw all that money 100% tax-free. The decision of which to do definitely depends on what your retirement goals are and what your investing goals today is. There's definitely good arguments for traditional and for Roth. However, in my opinion, if you don't need the tax savings this year for whatever reason, then you're probably better off doing Roth TSP. Next thing I should mention is contribution limits. You can contribute this year, 2020, up to $19,500 of your own money. And this doesn't include any kind of matching amount you get from your agency. So in the military, under the blended retirement system, if you contribute up to 5%, it doesn't matter if you contribute traditional or Roth, the government will match you up to 5% and that money has to go in your traditional side. It doesn't really matter how much is on the traditional versus how much is on the Roth. They both perform in the funds the same. The only distinction is how they're taxed when you put them in and how they're taxed when you take the money out. Next useful tab on the drop-down is frequently asked questions. Let's go to the FAQ, and this has everything you need to know. How do I report my new address to TSP? How do I access my account if I lose or forget my password? That happens to people. How do I protect my account against fraud? How can I make loan payments online? How do I designate or change my beneficiaries? All the information you need to manage your retirement account over your lifetime is freely available on the TSP's website. Next thing that might be useful is calculators, and this is something that you can just play around with. Depending on your agency, depending on your retirement strategy, you can input different numbers based on how you think the funds perform, and you should be able to estimate how much money you'll have by retirement. The next drop down at the top is Learn About Fund Options. Let's just go ahead and look at the first one, how to invest, investor types. Before you invest, change your investments, stick to your plan. That is really important. But let's go ahead and really briefly talk about the Lifecycle Funds. The Lifecycle Funds were created basically as a passive form of investment. It kind of gives you, as the contributor to the 401k, the feeling that your money is being actively managed, but it's not actually being managed that well. I've made several videos about the Lifecycle Funds. I will link them down below. I do not recommend them because, bottom line up front here, they're too heavily invested in the international fund. In addition, they hold government and corporate bonds way too early. If you're 18, 19, 20 years old, there's no reason why you should be holding any government bonds for 40 years. So I wish that they would change the weighting of the Lifecycle Funds in the future. Maybe I could recommend them to people, but as of right now, I highly recommend that you don't invest in them and that you stick to the individual funds. So let's go ahead and click on individual funds. There are only 5 individual funds that you need to know, and they are all index funds. These are very stable, very safe, long-term investments. Yes, there is volatility in U.S. equities year to year, but on a 20, 30, 40, 50-year investing time horizon, they are all very safe. The G stands for government bonds, and these are 10-year treasury notes. Now, we'll talk about the fund performance in a second, but government bonds, people will nickname it the guaranteed fund because they never go down. They don't earn you very much, but you will never lose money in the G fund. The F fund stands for fixed income, and this is corporate bonds. If you're in this index fund, then you own small fractions of the largest allocations of corporate and municipal debt in the country. C stands for Common Stock Index Fund, and this is the S&P 500 Index Fund. If you're invested in this fund, you're invested in the 500 largest companies in America. S stands for Small Cap Index Fund, and this then tracks the next 2,000 publicly traded U.S. companies on the New York Stock Exchange. So the C is the 500 largest, the big ones that you know by name. And then the S is the other 2,000 or so small cap funds that are publicly traded. The I fund then stands for the International Fund, and this is an index fund that tracks the performance of well-known international companies that you would know: Samsung Electronics, Toyota Motor Corp, Nestle, Royal Dutch Shell. They're just not American companies. To get an understanding of these individual funds, let's just do the C fund as an example. This is the S&P 500 Index Fund. If we click on it, it'll tell you, once again, this tracks Standard & Poor's, that's a rating agency at S&P 500, a broad market index made up of stocks of 500 large to medium-sized U.S. companies. So we got average annual returns, 1 year, 31%, 3 years, 15%. This is what it's averaged year to year. And the top 10 holdings, this is what you're in. You're in Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, Berkshire Hathaway, JP Morgan Chase, Google, Johnson & Johnson, Visa. The expense ratio for this fund's management is 0.042%. That is really good. So for every $1,000 you have invested, you're paying 42 cents to have this fund managed. And the asset manager is BlackRock Institutional Trust. BlackRock is the largest investment bank in America with assets under management. The other big ones maybe you've heard of are Charles Schwab, Vanguard, and Fidelity. They're all very safe, very reputable banks that will for sure be here decades in the future. But what we care about is the fund performance. Yes, what these funds are made of is interesting, but how do they make me money? So let's click on Fund Performance, and we can click on Rates of Return. Now, it's going to give you some scatter graphs. There's a lot of stuff going on here, so let's deselect all of the L funds. And the L funds are just made up, they're not their own individual funds. They're just made up of fixed percentages of the original 5 funds. So we can go ahead and ignore these. Let's see here. And let's just do the G fund. So this is the annual percent return of the G fund. You know, in the 80s, It was pretty decent. 8% guaranteed 8%. I think a lot of people would take that today. But over time, as interest rates continue to fall, the G fund's performance is down, down, down. This year, 10-year Treasury notes will average under 1%. It will not beat inflation. So let's deselect the G fund and let's add the F fund. Now, yes, there is a small amount of volatility in the F fund. In 1994, it lost almost 3%. In 1999, it lost 0.85%. In 2013, it lost 1.68%. But in a 32-year span, it only went negative 3 times. So if you don't feel comfortable in stocks, US equities, and you want to hold bonds instead, I highly recommend just go to the F fund. But let's go ahead and have some fun, and we are going to select the S fund. And this is where you get the wild swings. So once again, we have 0, 0 here in the middle. And 1988, up 11%, 1995, up 37%, 2003, up 28, let's see, 2009, up 26, 2013, up 32, and then you've got here the 2008 financial collapse, down 36%. You've got 3 bad years. This was the dot-com crash, the war in Iraq, and the 2002 recession, I guess. Negative 22%. And something I want to highlight here between the S and the C fund is they generally perform the same. Look at that overlap between the 500 largest companies in America and then the next 2,000 smallest companies in America. So they basically perform the same. So on my channel, people always ask me, what do you recommend being invested in? I always just say 100% C fund for simplicity. However, people then ask, well, what about the S fund? The S fund is more volatile. So look at where the C went up 28% in 2003, but the S fund went up 42%. Now look where the C performed 2.11, the S was -3. So the S kind of goes up higher in good years and goes down lower in bad years. Next tab at the top says Loan Basics, In-Service Withdrawal Basics, Living and Retirement, Annuity Basics, Useful Information, Managing Life Changes, Planning for Life Events, Changes in Your Career, for beneficiary participants. Okay, I'm going to log in and then we will look at my TSP account. Okay, I've logged in and I'm going to try not to flash my personal information to you, but I am comfortable showing you my account balance. I think this is really important for people to talk about and think about. Currently, I have about $21,603. And as far as the individual funds, you'll see here I am just 100% in the C fund. That is the S&P 500 index funds. Objectively, this is the best performing fund offered. If you were in a IRA, you have lots of options of what you can do. If you're in a private company 401k, there probably would be more options available. The Government TSP is very conservative in only offering you these 5 very basic index funds. And the C fund truly is, in my opinion, the best that you can do. If I were to have it mixed up and have various amounts in different lifecycle funds or various percentages in the F, the S, and the I fund, you would see those percentages here, evenly divided up. When we scroll down, there's a nice pie chart. It's not very colorful because it's all one color for me, but you have 2 things to know: account distribution and contribution allocation. Contribution allocation is where future money goes. If you're still working for the government and still contributing to your TSP, you can control what percentages go into what funds. So if you want 50% going to the F fund and 50% going to the C fund, going forward in the future from now, you can fix that contribution allocation. Account distribution is where your money already in the account is currently distributed. So if you were to have 50% in the C, 20% in the I, 30% in the F, you can do that. And you can change these at any time. Your contribution allocations, you can switch where your future money will go. You can change this. And account distributions, they only allow you to rebalance your TSP account twice a month, and then you can go to the G fund at any time. So it's kind of 2 plus G is the rule, but in my opinion, you shouldn't be trying to time the markets. Don't pay attention to the news. It's too difficult in general in the government TSP to do this, but when you react to current events and you don't stick to your game plan of long-term investing, you're more likely to cost yourself money. I can include a video down below talking about trying to time the market with your TSP account. Don't do it. So the menu on the left has everything that you need to know: account balances, recent transactions, activity summary. Something interesting to look at is statements. By clicking on statements, you can actually access PDFs of all of your documents going back to when you started contributing to the TSP. So the first time I made a contribution to the TSP was probably January of 2018. We can go ahead and click on view and see how much I put in and what the account balance and distributions were at. So here is my quarterly document statement from January through March of 2018. The default at that time for military members was the G fund. I didn't know, when I first set up the account, I didn't know how to get out of the G fund. That's why I'm kind of making this video to help people. And yeah, I was 100% G, and contributions, $62. So for the first 3 months of 2018, I contributed only $62 to my TSP. In addition to quarterly statements, you can click on annual statements, and I only have annual statements so far for 2018, 2019, and obviously I will get one soon for 2020. You can click on correspondence from the TSP in order to see any kind of documents you might have received for changes in contribution and allocations. Let's see, online transfers. This is what you need right here. So contribution allocations. If you click on this, we can change our contribution allocations. I'm not going to do it, but I will show you how to do it. So under contribution allocations, scroll down to the bottom, push the button request contribution allocation. So under contribution allocations, it tells us to enter percentages in whole numbers, no decimals. The percentages must equal 100%. We can't use dollar amounts. And it even says the percentages you choose will be applied to your future contributions. We scroll down to the bottom and let's enter in some percentages. So G fund will do 10, F fund will do 10, C fund will do 50, and then S fund will do 20, and then I fund will do 10, and there we go. Percentages is equal to 100. We would then click continue. And what this means is that for your future contributions, next month's paycheck, 10% of next month's paycheck will go into the G fund, 10% F fund, 50 C fund. You get it. The other thing you can do is interfund transfers, and that shifts around the money currently in your TSP account. So let's go down and go ahead and click the button for request interfund transfer. And it's giving us the same instructions. Interfund transfers must be entered in percentages and whole numbers. The percentages must equal 100. And it even says, this interfund transfer request will be applied to the entire balance that is already in your account. So currently I'm 100% C fund. We can do it again. If I want to shift the money in there around to 10% G, 10% F, 50% C, 10% S, 20% I, whatever, has to equal 100. You then click continue. At the end of the trading day, it will then change it for tomorrow, basically. The next tab that you might be interested in is Tsp Loans. People do borrow against their TSP balance. I don't generally recommend this, but this is your money and you can do whatever you want with it. There's information about the CARES Act because with everything going on, there's been changes. You can also change withdrawals or installment payments. If you're already retired and withdrawing from your TSP, you can make changes here. You can also upload documents to the TSP if something needs to be verified. You can also go to your profile settings and change, your phone number, your email address, your home address. And then there's a tab for beneficiaries in the untimely passing. Where do you want your money, your TSP account balance to go if you die? Okay guys, there you have it. I hope this video was useful for people who might be brand new to the TSP. If you liked this video, give me a thumbs up so the algorithm knows this video was good. In addition, consider subscribing to my channel. I talk a lot about investing and finance and retirement. And if you have any comments or questions, leave me one down below. I will try and help you if I can. And until the next video, take care.